What is the value of connectivity? As we discovered during the COVID-19 pandemic, connectivity has become as vital to the modern world as water and power. Connectivity kept us close with loved ones, enabled telehealth, helped schools continue educating, and supported global commerce. Some might even say the pandemic became the ultimate catalyst for connectivity acceleration. But as we create our connected future, how do we build the 5G and fiber infrastructure to support tens of billions of devices by 2030? Provide access to data and information reliably, safely, and securely, and at a cost that gives everyone equal access. To answer these questions, I wanted to talk to Hans Vestberg, CEO of Verizon. Hans not only leads one of the world's top providers of technology and communications services, he's also one of the authors of the UN Sustainable Development Goals and a champion of digital inclusion. I sat down with Hans at Verizon's offices in New York to talk about these issues and how he sees the future of connectivity. Hans, thank you so much for joining us today. So when you were growing up in Sweden, Sweden was one of the pioneers of mobile radio networks.
Yes,
Do you remember your first cell phone?
Oh yeah. I became the head of accounting in Chile, in Latin America. In '94, I was head of 3 people, and they gave me a mobile phone. It was an Ericsson phone, of course. It was like a brick like that. I was so proud, I remember the moment when I picked it up, the first call, and of course nobody had my numbers, nobody called me, and I had nobody to call, but it was still my phone, so it was an amazing moment.
When you took over as the CEO at Verizon, you unveiled Verizon 2.0, your really vision for transforming the company, both the network, focusing on fiber, 5G, but also the customer-facing orientation of the company. Perhaps you could just give us an update on, where that vision stands today.
When I came in, Verizon was a great company. So it's more about how do I strengthen what we're doing and amplify some of the things. And of course, the network has been always our core business and our strength as a company. So of course, we doubled down to it, but that meant also we changed a little bit how we designed the network. We knew that if we did that, we can actually unleash new services and products for our customers. And the good thing for us, we are serving all type of customers, all the way from consumers to large enterprises, small and medium, to federal customers. And the vision was, of course, from the data center to the edge of the network, we harmonize it to one network. Then at the edge of the network, we have different type of access. But we also had a transformation of the culture and the leadership of the company, because also we want to come into the 21st century being very progressive in our leadership, in our culture, the purpose, thinking about all the 4 stakeholders, shareholders, customers, employees, and society.
I wanted to turn to capital investment.
Yeah, we do a lot of that.
For sure. The pandemic drove demand for digital connectivity, but at the same time, it also stressed the supply chains.
Yeah.
But Verizon focused earlier this year on increasing capital investment heavily in 5G and in fiber. So perhaps talk about the focus and what gave you the confidence to make those investments.
It was the first earnings call after the COVID. We increased our capex.
Yes.
And we did that because, first of all, we wanted to show that we are investing. We believe in this country and we believe in the business. And of course, one of the largest investment that any corporation do in the United States is, of course, our C-band investment that we did in the beginning of this year, which was an investment of $53 billion. And it's added, of course, spectrum for generations for us. We also added that we want to get this C-band in use as soon as possible. And we told the market we're going to add on top of our business as usual capex, which is somewhere 17 to 18. We added 10 billion over 3 years to get the usage of to the business case. And we also committed to the market to amplify and accelerate our business cases for 5G, because we can do more homes quicker, we can do mobile edge compute quicker, we get more mobility use cases quicker as the C-band comes into play. So yeah, we made a bold commitment, so I'm pretty confident we're doing the right things.
One of the themes that continue on CapEx, how do you get confident of the return of that investment, both your prospects for the US economy over the medium term and the return specifically on the projects you're focused on?
Some capex takes a little bit longer to get return. I mean, think about Fios, which was way before me, an investment that my predecessors did. The fruits we're getting right now. But basically, every capital investment has a return on investment calculation. I think we're proud ourselves that the financial discipline in Verizon is enormous. And as I said also, after this sort of hump of building what we call the Verizon Intelligent Edge Network, as well as the C-band, additional 10 billion, our capital intensity will go down because we have done a lot of the things that will be required for the next 10, 15 years. That doesn't mean we're not going to continue to invest, but the intensity will go down.
In addition to leading Verizon, you're also chairman of the World Economic Forum's Edison Alliance, and you also helped author the UN Sustainable Development Goals with a real focus on bridging the digital divide. Can you talk to us about, what's the critical importance of ensuring that everybody has access to affordable broadband and connectivity?
Very early on in my career, I saw that mobility, broadband, and cloud is a 21st century's infrastructure. Sure. Because it doesn't matter where you're born and where you live and who you are. So in the collaboration with the World Economic Forum, we decided to put together a team with the biggest companies and countries in the world to address the next billion of people being connected. That's the Edison Alliance, where I'm the chairman. But very clear, this is part of the strategy of Verizon as well. In the conversation about digital inclusion, I think that sometimes we confuse a little bit because it's three pieces of it. It's the accessibility of the technology, it's affordability, and the usability. So it's 3.8 billion people on this earth that are not connected. 85% of them have coverage of broadband. Yeah. So the accessibility for them is actually there. But it's an affordability to have a device or a plan that is meeting their demand. And then finally, they have usability. They have a service of remote education in their language or in whatever they want to study. Or not only that, it's also the way they consume telehealth or something like that, or digital inclusion.
And sustainability is another area where Verizon's prioritizing investment. Verizon's committed to net zero carbon emissions by 2035. Can you talk about what you're doing to reach that goal, your investment in renewables, et cetera?
It's a big and important commitment. It is not just words. It's much more than that for us. We call it Citizen Verizon. First of all, we need to know how much data is growing in the network to 2035. Secondly, all the equipment we have and every other asset we have, how much emission will it bring out? And one realization we did very early on was that some of the assets we have, they are in places there are no green power or green solutions. So that's why we embarked, I think 2 years ago, on our first green bond to actually fuel the energy grid. That was 1 billion. We're on our third bond that we just came out with in September. And basically we direct the money to projects that is expanding the grid with green solutions. So ultimately, we are offsetting it, but ultimately we believe that wherever we have the assets, we're going to have it as well. And in that sort of way, we can achieve our goal of net zero by 2035.
Some people may not know that you are a fierce handball player, and including as chairman of the Swedish Handball Association. So perhaps you share with us some of the leadership lessons you've learned from your sports time.
First of all, I was born in the northern part of Sweden in a small town. My life was surrounding around sports since I was like this until I was 23, 24. My dream was, of course, to be professional in team handball, make the national team. My learnings was enormous from from team handball, of course. I learned about teammates that are different in different situations, how to manage them, and I think that's what I'm doing today at Verizon, and because ultimately I have brilliant people around me that is far more knowledgeable than me, but my job is to get 110% out of all of them, and then collectively even more. And that's a lot about teamwork and seeing that you know every individual and you understand how you motivate them, because people are so different.
In Morgan Stanley's recent broadband and wireless survey, we asked customers why they choose their wireless service, and not surprisingly, price led with about half of the respondents.
Oh, that's interesting.
Network reliability was just behind, but we asked about innovative technologies like 5G, and only 4% put that as a high priority. Do you think consumers just aren't aware of the use cases, or do you think we still need to see those use cases get developed over time?
After 1 year of 4G, 10% of the consumers had a 4G phone. After 1 year since we launched 5G nationwide, 25% of our customers have a 5G phone. I think that the most important thing is that 5G has so many vectors and possibilities than previous wireless generation. And when the design was done of 5G, the design was actually, this is for replacing solutions for large enterprises and for society. There was thought about having much more of low latency, long battery lifetime, enormous throughput, being able to connect millions of phones in dense areas or millions of devices. So some of those are not needed really for a consumer at this moment, but it's needed if you want to do a fully automated factory with only 5G, or a logistics center that is using robotics that is steered by 5G, or drones that are steered by 5G. But one thing that I think people are starting to realize, all this metaverse, which is a fantastic word, but it's actually AR, VR, a digital world and an analog world. All that will require 5G. If you're going to have a consumer solution where you're going to have an artificial sort of world or a virtual reality, augmented reality, it requires enormous throughputs and speed and latencies. 5G is the only technology that can do that if you want to have it wireless. And it's a long journey. I mean, every G, as we said, is a 10-year journey.
I wanted to ask you about the shifting geopolitical landscape. We've seen a rise of some protectionist trade policies, and I wanted to understand how you think about managing that within Verizon and planning for that sort of uncertain future, as well as potentially for diverging technical standards.
I think that one thing that I usually talk about is a reason why you can take a phone and go to any country in the world and use it. Yeah. Because this is the only industry that actually decides that, hey, let's decide what we want to achieve with the technology. Let's put in all the patents we have, and then we decide the standard. And then everybody builds to that standard, and then the phone can work. It's a very unique industry. That's why 5.5 billion or almost 6 billion people on this earth has a mobile phone, because the cost has gone down, because it's one standard. And of course, there might be worries that will not go there and continue, as there are divergences between the geopolitics and so on. I'm a strong advocate that if that would happen, that would be detrimental for the world's digital inclusion plans, because then the price will go up dramatically. This is extremely important for the globe, for the world, that we can keep these together as standards, even though we have our disagreements between countries, that building standards that actually are getting benefits for each and every of the citizens of this planet is extremely important.
So I want to turn to the pandemic, and I think people are becoming much more comfortable with the concept of work from anywhere.
Yeah.
So I'd love to understand more about how Verizon is looking at that as an opportunity to help serve your customers better, but also as an organization you talked about the employees being one of your 4 key constituencies.
A couple of things are important. We leapfrog 5 to 7 years in technology. Usually you have a progression with technology that put a lot of new things on our network. I mean, I usually say that overnight we moved the busy hour from 4 to 6, where people went home and they called their family or whatever, say, I'm coming home. Or in the evening when they were consuming streaming on the network. Those were the two times now. And also it moved out from the city sometimes to the suburban. A lot of those systematic changes in the network will consist. We're going to see much more work from home. We're going to see much more remote learning. We're going to see much more telehealth. That's here to stay. That's a great opportunity for us. We're going nationwide with broadband. We have mobility service nationwide. And then the last thing, when it comes to retail, that will also systematically change. What is happening is that we probably see much more digital usage than going into the store. Finally, when it comes to our employees, and that was probably one of the hardest thing that I as a leader was confronted with, I decided in that moment, I'm going to communicate with my employees every day. So the second week of the COVID, I started what we call the daily live stream between 12 and 12:30. I did that for 7 months, I think, every day. We had days where more than 100,000 people tuned in. We still do it. They only invite me every second week nowadays. They are tired of me.
Well, Hans, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Simon.